The Galactic Council had made their position clear. Humans were unsuitable for military operations. Too emotional, they said. Too fragile. Too concerned with individual lives to make the hard tactical decisions that war demanded. The Zephyrian representative had been particularly vocal, his crystalline form resonating with dismissive harmonics as he declared that humanity's obsession with preserving life made them a liability on any battlefield. Commander Vextal of the Hegemony Forces had agreed. When the defense of Medical Station Tango 7 was assigned to a joint coalition, he'd relegated the human contingent to support roles only. Let them handle supplies and communications, he'd decided. Real warriors would hold the line. That was before the Devourers arrived. The attack came without warning, as it always did with the Devourers. One moment, the asteroid field around the medical station was empty save for the gentle drift of mining debris. The next, reality seemed to tear itself apart as dozens of biomechanical monstrosities emerged from fold space, their chitinous hulls gleaming with an oily malevolence. Vextal watched his defensive perimeter crumble within the first hour. The Zephyrians, for all their martial pride, found their energy-based weapons largely ineffective against the Devourer's adaptive armor. His own hegemony shock troops, bred for aggression and trained from birth for combat, fought valiantly but fell back as the enemy's numerical superiority became apparent. The medical station itself became the final fallback position. 3 levels of wounded from a dozen species, doctors and nurses working frantically to keep the injured alive, while the sound of weapons fire grew ever closer. Vextal prepared his final message to the fleet, requesting immediate evacuation of essential personnel. That's when he noticed that not all the humans had retreated to the interior. Nurse Sarah Chen stood at the main corridor junction, her slight frame dwarfed by the massive blast doors that were already showing stress fractures from the Devourer assault. She wore no armor, carried no military-grade weapons. In her hands was nothing more than a standard-issue medical scanner and what appeared to be a jury-rigged pharmaceutical dispenser. Human, Vextal's translator rendered his mandible clicks into standard galactic. Fall back to the evacuation point. This position is lost. Sarah looked up at him, and Vextal was struck by something he'd never seen before in a human's eyes during combat. Not fear, not the berserker rage that other species sometimes displayed when cornered. It was something else entirely. A calm, calculating determination that reminded him uncomfortably of the universe's most successful predators. "Respectfully, Commander," she said, checking something on her scanner. "I have patients in the ward behind me who cannot be moved. They're not going anywhere, and neither am I." Before Vextal could respond, the blast doors exploded inward. 3 Devourers poured through the breach, their multiple limbs clicking against the deck plating as they oriented toward the life signs deeper in the station. They ignored Sarah entirely. She represented no threat, triggered none of their combat protocols. That was their first mistake. Sarah's dispenser hissed, and a fine mist settled over the lead Devourer. The creature paused, its sensor clusters twitching as it analyzed the foreign substance. Vextal recognized the compound, a mild sedative used in trauma surgery. Completely harmless to most species, barely noticeable even to humans. The Devourer's reaction was anything but mild. Its biomechanical systems, designed to adapt and overcome any threat, detected the foreign agent and immediately began producing countermeasures. Adrenaline analogs flooded its system. Its armor began secreting neutralizing compounds. Its neural pathways fired faster, harder, pushing its already overclocked biology into overdrive. Sarah triggered the dispenser again. This time it was a different compound, a simple stimulant, something that might be used to keep exhausted medical staff alert during long surgeries. Again harmless to most species. Again the Devourer's adaptive systems went into overdrive. Vextal watched in fascination as the creature began to convulse. Its own biology, pushed into a feedback loop of adaptation and counter-adaptation, was literally tearing itself apart. The other 2 Devourers, linked to the first through their hive-mind connection, began showing similar symptoms. "You see," Sarah said conversationally, as if she weren't single-handedly destroying 3 of the galaxy's most feared bioweapons. "Everyone always assumes that because we're medical personnel, we don't understand warfare. But healing and harming aren't opposites, they're 2 sides of the same knowledge." She triggered the dispenser a 3rd time. The Devourers collapsed, their adaptive systems finally overloading completely. The trick, Sarah continued, stepping over the twitching forms, isn't to attack them with something deadly. It's to give their own systems the rope to hang themselves with. A little knowledge of biochemistry, a basic understanding of feedback loops, and suddenly the galaxy's perfect adaptive organism becomes its own worst enemy. Vextal stared as more devourers poured through secondary breaches, only to meet other human medical staff armed with nothing but pharmaceutical dispensers and a frighteningly comprehensive understanding of xenobiology. Within 2 hours, the attack was over. The devourers, for the first time in recorded history, retreated from a battle. Later, as Vextal filed his report, he found himself reconsidering everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about humans. They weren't unsuitable for warfare because they were too emotional or too concerned with individual lives. They were unsuitable for warfare because they were too good at it. Any species could learn to destroy, but it took something special, something uniquely human to understand life so completely that you could turn an enemy's greatest strength into their fatal weakness. The humans didn't just fight to win battles. They fought to preserve life, and that motivation made them more dangerous than any conventional warrior. The nurse who had held the line wasn't a soldier. She was something far more terrifying, a healer who understood exactly how things died. And perhaps, Vextal mused as he watched Sarah Chen return to her patients with the same calm efficiency she'd shown while dismantling living weapons of war, that was the most human thing of all.